Hello, all of my beautiful freaking people. Welcome back to another episode of FML Talk. I am really excited to share today's episode with you. A dear friend of mine, Ashlynn Yennie, is here to talk to us about her journey of motherhood and her beautiful daughter, Viv. So sit back, grab a drink, and welcome to FML Talk.
Oh my God. Wait, how old was the other girl?
19. Can you believe that shit?
Hey, this is Gabrielle Stone.
Good book?
I did not in chapter 6 yet. He did what? 48 hours?
What a dick.
Yeah, but have you seen all the photos on her Instagram? And this is FML Talk.
Oh, no, she didn't.
Y'all know I love a good self-love cocktail and occasionally an actual cocktail. I have always notoriously hated the taste of alcohol and needed it disguised in a good mixology cocktail until I discovered Neft. Because Neft is a premium vodka in its purest form with non-GMO rye, it has a light taste full of character. Not only is Neft one of the best tasting vodkas I've ever had, it also comes in the cutest packaging I have ever seen. Their unbreakable barrel keeps it chilled for up to 6 hours, making it the perfect drink to take just about anywhere. Join me in adding a little actual cocktail into your self-love cocktail with Neft vodka. Cheers! Normally, I get on here and kind of give you a little bit of a tease as to what we're going to get into today, but Ashlynn's story is so beautiful, and this interview is so raw and so honest about her journey with her daughter's diagnosis. I really want it to come from her. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. Ashlynn Yennie, welcome to FML Talk.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here.
This is really special for me because you and I, God, I mean, how long has it been? 8, 9 years?
No.
Longer?
It's been 11. It's 2022, right?
Yeah, I know. Like, what year are we even in?
So I think we met in 2011.
It's been a long fucking time that you've been in my life.
Yeah.
I look up to you in a lot of different ways. You are such a beautiful mom and an incredible actress. You've done movies with my mom.
I did.
We haven't fucking worked together yet, which is bullshit, but
I know your mom, she killed me in a movie.
Oh, I love that.
She's such a pro too. She walked up to me and she was like, just so you know, I'm not going to hurt you. Because I couldn't see what she was doing. And I was like, I completely have faith in you.
You have
and
full
trust
faith in
you.
D. Wallace to murder me right now.
I was like, if anyone's going to murder me, please. And also, if you do hit me, it's totally fine.
You're like, hurt me, D. It's fine. It'll be a good story.
Yeah.
So you come from a kind of horror background.
Yeah.
In the famous The Human Centipede.
Yes.
I remember when I first met you in class, and I don't know how I found out that you were a part of that movie, but I think you had told me that you did cons with my mom.
Yeah, that's what it was, because we were in class and, you know, Gabrielle is an amazing actress, and this was like so long ago too, and we were so young, and I was just like, how has she got so much depth? Like, it was so intense. Like, and I remember our teacher, all of us were like, how is she so deep at 20, you know, or whatever age we were. And then you had said something like in passing to the teacher. You were like, yeah, my mom is Dee Wallace. And my ears perked up because I had just done a convention, my first convention ever.
Right.
And I had met your mom in the lobby of the hotel. Mind you, I was a fan. So I was obviously like, oh my God, hi. And then she was like, are you here to like sign? I was like, this is my first time. Your mom probably will never remember this, but she was so wonderful. That's also where I met Serena Vincent.
Yeah.
And your mom was so wonderful, and she was just like, oh yeah, this is how it works.
Took you under her wing.
And so in class, I walked up to you and I was like, I know your mom. And you were like, yeah, everyone knows my mom. And I was like, no, I met your mom at a convention. And then you were like, wait, from what? And I was like, The Human Centipede. And you were like, oh my God. Because that was like a very talked about, not watched movie.
Yes, but I had never seen it, but I had heard about it.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if I've told you this. I went home probably that weekend and watched it with, I think it was probably my ex-husband at the time. I don't know if we were married yet. And he was like, wait, why are we watching such a horrific film? And I'm like, because do you see the girl that's playing the ass right now? That's my friend from class.
I know her.
Such a disturbing film. Although if you're into horror, I do highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I'm not a horror fan myself.
Yeah.
Like I like some movies, but I get super scared really easily. It's not like go to, you know, like on a Friday night, let's watch a horror film. It's just where I ended up starting out.
Yeah. I love it.
Weird.
Okay, but that's not what we're here to talk about today, obviously.
No.
So take me from your horror on screen to your quite traumatic birth that you had when you were getting ready to deliver your daughter.
So this is many years later, you know, Human Centipede was like 2008, I think I filmed that film. Anyways, I had my daughter in 2018, and you know, to be quite honest, like I've been with my husband now, but we've been together for 13 years. Mm-hmm. We were broken up at the time. This is why I tell people just be very careful.
I remember when I found out you were pregnant, and I was like, with who?
Whose baby?
I was like, I thought you guys were broken up.
So we had broken up, and I had booked a job or something, which that's always the worst, you know, when you're on the high. And I've known him for so long. He's my best friend, you know, but sometimes you need a break. Sometimes that just happens. But this time we were broken up. This was like we were going to go our separate ways. And we ended up having sex. And remember this, guys, I was with him for like 10 years at that point and never had a scare, not that scary, but never had you know, like any sort of like, maybe I'm pregnant. Never, ever, ever. And we had sex once and I got pregnant.
That's all it takes.
It's only because I ovulated early. You know, we backtracked it because he was just as shocked as I was. So we had sex once, nothing like we're going to work this out. We're going to do that. Nothing. It was just like, okay, that was fun. Moving on.
Right.
And then about 6 weeks later, I was on set of a movie. And I was like, I'm really tired. I'm like overly tired. And I felt weird and all these things. And then suddenly I started like piecing it together. And I was like, wait a second. When's the last time I had my period? What's going on? And then I realized, I think I'm pregnant.
Oh my God.
I tell him, he's like, there's no way. There's no way. There was a way. Find out I'm pregnant. And then at that point, I think I was like 33. And I was like, you know, if I'm ever going to have a baby, I'm going to have a baby with him. Mm-hmm. And I knew that, you know. We have our own issues. But I was like, he's an amazing father. He's an amazing person. And he comes from, I love his family so much. I'm so close with his mom and his sister. And, you know, I was like, you know, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to be a mom. If this is what the universe wants for me, I'm so ready for this journey. And I felt pretty prepared for it. I was like, let's do this. So then I chose, because I'm somewhat of a hippie when it comes to, you know, Western medicine and Eastern medicine. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a natural birth.
That like makes my body hurt just hearing that.
I don't know why I did it. But, so I decided to do a completely natural birth at a birthing center in Beverly Hills, which is across the street from Cedars. So if there was any complications, they could rush me right over, because birthing a baby is very gross and traumatic, and it's very hard. And a lot of complications can happen. I was very lucky. I did a bunch of like, again, I'm a hippie. I did a bunch of like Reiki healing sessions when Vivian was inside of me. You know, and I was like, be gentle on me, like prompting her, like just come out really quickly type thing, because mommy's not going to have anything. And I did something called a hypnobirthing class, and your partner has to do it with you as well if you have a partner. And basically it's like how you go into like a hypnotic state to like birth your baby. That shit does not work. I'm sorry, it doesn't. I did it, and I was like, and while I was in labor, Michael leans forward, and there's like prompting words to like help relax you. And he leans forward and goes, lavender. I'm dead. And I go, shh.
Shut the fuck up.
Like as I'm in a contraction, I'm like, shh. Like lavender doesn't mean anything right now, you know? And so it was, she came out in 5 hours, which is a super fast birth, especially a first time birth.
Oh my God, that's fast.
Super fast. Super fast. And it was really intense, and it was really, honestly, really traumatic. And I had her. She was beautiful, healthy, gorgeous. I mean, she did have a condition called torticollis, which she ended up having surgery for because hers was so severe. But as far as like, that's like a muscular thing.
Right.
As far as her, anything else, she's super healthy, came out, 8 pounds, pink, gorgeous, wonderful.
And what is it, what kind of space were you in delivering? Like
I was in water.
Okay, right. I felt like I remembered that detail, like in a kiddie pool.
No, it was so the birthing center that I chose to have it at. They had these gorgeous rooms with, a birthing tub. So it was like a big, huge, like whirlpool French style, tub with like 4 posts around you and twinkle lights, and I had candles burning.
Oh my god!
And like there's candles, and I had my midwife and then her 2 assistants, and you have like a cheerleading team with you, and then I labored. So then there's like a king size bed that I like labored on. So it's very non-traditional as far as like the way that you would do it in a hospital. You can birth any way you choose. So at one point I had gotten in the water, and she was like, this is like so funny, people are gonna laugh when they hear this, but she was like, are you ready to push? And I was like, yeah, okay, let's like do this. And then I was like, laying like you would normally sit in a bathtub,
right?
And it was so uncomfortable for me, just like in my back. And it was just not how I was like, this is not how she's coming out.
Yeah.
So I ended up actually getting on my knees and birthing her basically.
In the bathtub?
Yeah.
On your knees in the bathtub. Okay.
Basically birthing her very tribal, like,
right.
like
shitting out a baby.
Kind of on all fours almost.
Yeah.
Basically. Very almost Human Centipede. So I was like on all fours because it felt more natural that way than the way she was, it wasn't working for me. And so basically I just like flipped around. I like put my head down and I was like basically on all fours. And this is the worst part of it is, so when Vivian started to like crown, like where you could like see her head, I was actually on the bed at that point and I hadn't gotten in the water yet. And Michael was right there. Like, I mean, he's seen it all.
Yeah.
He was like, oh my God, I see her. And then that's when his face changed, because suddenly he went from being Michael, my significant other, to he's a fucking dad.
Right.
And that's when I saw this super huge change over his face, because I was like, oh shit, he's a dad. Oh shit, I'm becoming a mom.
Right.
This is when it's happening. This is happening. Oh my God. And very vivid memory of that. And then my midwife was like, do you want to get in the water now? And I was like, sure. So then I stand up and I get in the water and I can feel Vivian's head like right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like, and again, I didn't have any drugs. I didn't have an Advil. I didn't have a Tylenol. I had nothing. Like, I feel
dude.
all of it. Yeah. I highly suggest getting the drugs to anyone. I mean, if you want to do a natural birth and you're like, this is how I want to do it, absolutely 100% do it and know that you can.
Right.
But also,
get an epidural.
It's okay to get an epidural. It's okay to, and as a woman who has birthed a child naturally, it's totally okay to not be the hero. And just, because you're going to be a hero anyways. Like, any way you birth your baby. If it's a C-section, if it's natural, if it's with drugs, however you get that baby out, that's the most important thing. When you've cooked this baby for 9 months.
Yes.
Like, you've done an amazing job.
Yeah.
Like, just pregnancy in itself is just, ugh.
Yeah.
So I don't like being pregnant. I'll be honest with you. Some women love it.
Yeah.
I liked it till about 25 weeks. And then after that, I was like,
I'm done.
You're over the cute stage.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm now giant and I feel gross and everything is changing and it's bizarre what your body goes through.
Yeah.
But, so then I went back and, so then I got in the water. And then this is the craziest part is when I got in the water, Vivian, on one contraction, I could feel her coming out and I was so excited and I was pushing. And then the contraction stopped, and then my body basically sucked her back up. So it's like all the work I did.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Everything I did to get her out was gone. And I had like a mini breakdown inside my head.
Yeah.
I was very silent through my birth as well, which was kind of shocking to me.
Right.
I was just very like internal and just like, I gotta do this, And so on my next contraction, my midwife said to me, don't do it, Ashlynn. Don't do it, because she knew what I was going to do. And that was, I was just going to keep pushing through the contraction. So what you do is you push when you have a contraction.
Right.
I didn't stop. So the next contraction hit and I pushed, and I didn't stop pushing until Vivian was out. Ugh. So basically I got her out in one contraction. I mean, her whole body out in one contraction, which is really not good to do, because then you tear. So I tore in like 4 places.
Oh, God. This is like really encouraging me to have a child. I'm like, yay.
But then, because you don't feel anything, it doesn't matter. They stitch you up, you're totally fine. You're almost better than new, because they stitch you up so well. You're just like, wow, I'm 20 again. This is great. But yeah, so I got her out in one contraction, and I pulled her up, I looked at her, and then I just kissed her, and she was bloody and gross. And I have, in the pictures, it's gross. Like, I have all of this gross stuff on my face, and I'm just looking at this baby like, oh my God, I did it.
Wow.
And I made you.
Yeah.
And this is so cool. And now I'm a mom.
Yeah. And my whole life is different.
And what the fuck do I do?
Right.
Also, because I chose to have her at a birthing center, there's no bells and whistles with a birthing center. I had her at 3:05 a.m. At 6:30 a.m., I was at home on my couch.
Wow.
That was terrifying.
Yeah.
and I don't live around family.
Right.
None of my girlfriends have children. My sisters do, but there was like literally no one. Michael and I chose that. We were like, we just want to have like a wonderful 30 days just with Vivian by ourselves without anyone visiting, just like mushy, baby time. No, you need help.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Like, if you're a new mom, you need that help. You need that time, because you've just done something so extraordinary with your body.
Yeah.
You need a rest. And that's why the hospitals are fantastic, because they give you that time.
Yeah.
And they give you that ability to rest. But if you don't have that and you want to do the birthing center, just be really prepared for what the after is like.
Right.
Because I wasn't.
Right.
And, and then it was like, like 2 days, Vivian was like 2 days old, and I realized Michael had no idea how to be around a baby. Like, it was just like he had no clue how to be a dad,
right.
how to hold a baby. He was terrified. She was like a China doll to him, which they are, but at the same time I was like, just swaddle her and then just like, hold her. And he's like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, now he's fantastic, but at the beginning, and if we're never gonna have another kid, but if I were to have another kid, we would know exactly what to do. They always say the second you whatever, but you're terrified, and you're just now a mom, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
Yeah.
So
when was it that you started to notice Vivian not developing the way that she should have been on track with her age?
It was Michael who actually noticed it first, because in all honesty, I was super in denial about it. She was around 10 months old, and he said something to me where he was like, she has some signs of autism. And I was like, what? No, she doesn't. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing. And I kind of poo-pooed him and dismissed him. And so did our pediatrician, which Michael hates. And he was right. He was absolutely 100% right.
What were the signs that he was noticing?
So around 10 months old, she started walking. And that's when he noticed she was like walking over to the wall, and she was like hitting her head against the wall, which was like super weird. And then when she got better at walking, she started to spin in circles, and for like a really long time. And then she would stim, which there's different forms of stimming. And for Vivian, she likes bouncing. And then when she gets overwhelmed, she does do the hand flapping.
Yeah. Can you explain what stim is?
So stimming is when so an autistic person has a bunch of feelings inside, or they need to get energy out, they do something called stimming. And it's not bad. It's actually so wonderful that they do that. And you should never stop someone from stimming. And that is something that we've learned, because what has happened is when kids were, in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s even, they were telling kids, like, stop doing that, stop bouncing up and down, stop spinning in circles, sit down at your desk and just do your work. Well, it's actually really good for a child to stim and for a person to stim, because some people, as they grow into an adult, they still need some sort of stimming. And it's a way for them to get out excess energy or frustration or whatever it is that they need to do.
Yeah.
And then they can go back to concentrating on what they're working on.
Right.
So for Viv, she's now in preschool. She'll just need to get up from the table if she's doing a activity, and she needs to go, bounce up and down on a chair. Like, I mean, she bounces, like we call her Tigger. She just bounces up and down on a chair, bounces, and then she'll go back. And she knows exactly where she left off.
Right.
She's super, super smart. But, before we knew of before we got her autism diagnosis and before we even started, early intervention for her, we kept telling her, stop bouncing, stop doing that, because we didn't know.
Right.
And it's really damaging to do that to an autistic person, because it's not healthy for them. They need to do that.
Right.
So those were the first things that Michael noticed, was the spinning, the hand flapping, the bouncing, the hitting her head on the wall.
And you went to a pediatrician and they were like, no, she's fine.
Yeah, our pediatrician.
Yeah.
Which is normal. I should say this. It's totally normal for a pediatrician, because what they do is they do something called the wait and see. So they want to wait till a child is around 3 years old before they start labeling anything, which I get, but it's actually really beneficial if you learn it earlier. The earlier you learn and the earlier you see the signs, and that's why the CDC has actually changed the milestones for children. So the milestones for children used to be like, okay, well, they have to crawl at 6 months, they have to walk at 10, and they have to be like, holding a cup at, 15 months and drinking on their own and eating with a fork and doing all these things. Well, now we're learning that one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
And that's just how, but as a society, we like to put people into a box, keep them there, and make them conform.
Yeah.
To what it is that we need in our society. And what we're learning is, hey, that's actually not healthy, because that's really damaging. And we get adults who have, who have trauma when they're really small, of not being heard or being frustrated and, having to, a big thing for autistic people, and Vivian has this, is eye contact. She avoids it. And she's getting much, much better about it, but she used to never make eye contact. Never. And it's really heartbreaking as a mom, because you can't connect with your child, like trying to see it, like talk to her. And what they used to do is like forced eye contact. So a child would grow up being forced to make eye contact. And so then they overly, have you ever met somebody who's like overly eye contact?
Yeah.
It's like overly intense. Probably they were forced to make eye contact, and it's actually very uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
And that's not okay, that we've like forced them to be this way. And there's also something called masking, which is where you mask your whatever's going on, and you kind of mirror whatever someone else is doing.
Yeah.
So you'll mirror like, oh, that person's laughing, I'll laugh too.
Right.
Even though you're really not wanting to laugh.
Right.
So it's really fascinating being the mom to an autistic child, because I just, didn't know anything about autism prior to her. I knew a little bit about it. I have a nephew who is on the spectrum, but he's on the spectrum in a very different way than Vivian. He's, he talked, my daughter's completely nonverbal. So, and it's nonverbal, non-speaking. You can choose your term. She says one word. She says, mama, that's it. And then she just communicates in different ways. And it's really, really crazy. Yeah. Being a witness to all of this, and also raising her.
Yeah. What was it like when you guys got the official diagnosis?
Oh, for me, it was, and I don't like to say this, but it was devastating.
Yeah. Well, that's honest.
It's honest, because sometimes you don't want to feel like you're like, making it sound like, oh my God, being autistic it's devastating. But it was devastating in the fact that because I didn't want to believe it, I was like, oh, she might just have delays, or she might just be delayed in, speech, and she might just be delayed in, social communication or whatever it was. But at 2 years old, we had started her in early intervention. So again, we went to our pediatrician at a year old. We went to him at 15 months old, 18 months old. And then at 2 years, he was like, okay, well, you guys should start looking into doing some early intervention.
What does that mean?
You mean to put your kid in a lot of therapy.
Okay.
And again, I have so much to say about that because it's like less is more.
Yeah.
That motto is so true for so many things. It's true in our business and acting. It's like less is more. Yeah. Less is more. And so after, our pediatrician was like, you guys should start looking into that. We had her assessed by a speech pathologist, an OT therapist, a physical therapist, and they all agreed that she needed to start X, Y, and a child development therapist. They agreed she needed to have all of these different therapies. So from 2 to 3, Vivian was in a lot of therapy. And it's all play-based sometimes. But again, it's like, there's something called a preferred activity and a non-preferred activity. We grew up doing non-preferred activities.
Right.
Do we love cleaning the toilet? No, that's a non-preferred activity. But do we love doing laundry? Some people love doing laundry. It's fun. So it's a preferred activity. So things like that. And so basically teaching kids how to do non-preferred activities and sit and do them. And when they're that young, like she's a baby still. She's 2 years old. But I had her in a lot of therapy, and I actually had to fire a couple of different therapists at the time because I didn't like how they were interacting with her. I thought they were too strict. She doesn't need, she needs positive reinforcement, not negative reinforcement.
Sure. And
some of the therapists were a little bit more old school, and I just was like, nah, not going to have it. And that's when you as a mom have to advocate for your kid so much. And, so for a full year, we did that. And then, again, she was in speech therapy for a full year and we didn't see any progress. There is something also that, going back to signs that she was autistic, was when she was about a year old, most kids at that age start repeating words. And that's like the saying, like, be careful what you say around your kid because they're going to repeat it, Vivian never repeated words. So it's something called iconic control, which is most children, you can say, flower, and they'll go flower, or try to say the word. Right. Vivian never did that. She still doesn't do it. It's wild. Yeah. Like, because I've been around enough children, I have nieces and nephews, and I've been, babysat all through my high school years. Been around enough kids where I was like, that's weird that she doesn't repeat ever. Like, she doesn't even open her mouth. She doesn't even try to say anything.
And so when did you find out that she was nonverbal?
So then, that was just like a given when she was like 2 and we started speech therapy. And then the speech therapist, we're hopeful that she will speak at some point.
I was going to say, because that doesn't mean that...
It doesn't mean she'll never talk.
Right.
It doesn't mean she'll never talk.
Right.
It just means that right now it's really, really hard.
Yeah. My mom tells this story all the time. She was at a convention and this mom came up to her like in tears. And she was like, I took my 11-year-old autistic son to go see E.T. in the theater, and on the way home he started repeating all of E.T.'s lines, and it was the first time we've ever heard him speak.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, she cries every time she tells it.
I mean, I'm gonna cry because that's exactly like my landlord.
Yeah.
Her grandson, he's awesome. He's 18. He just graduated high school with like honors, but he's autistic. He didn't talk till he was 4, and they were walking through a parking lot, and he was walking by the, cars, and suddenly he was like, 271643, and just reading off the numbers. And she and the whole family was there and was like, everyone burst into tears because now you know how much they know. Yeah, right. Suddenly they're like, he knows his numbers. Right. We had no idea. Wow. Oh my God. And so, Michael and I are kind of waiting for that day. Yeah. We're really hopeful for it. There's something called apraxia, which is where the actual muscle doesn't work to speak. But Vivian's had one-off words where we were at the dentist and they gave her a ball and she goes, ball. And I'm like, yep, that's a ball. Wow. So I'm like, I've heard her talk before. And like Michael came in the door the other day and she was like, hi. And then she said bye. She says no all the time at school. But again, these are called pop-out words where it's not all the time. And it's just more like when she feels like doing it. It's not that it's something she consistently says.
Yeah.
Like, mama is the only word she consistently says. And so going back to doing the therapy, we did that for a full year. All this different, we did ABA, we did child development, we did speech, and we did OT. OT is for sensory, because most kiddos who are on the spectrum have sensory processing disorder. Not all of them, but again, because it's a spectrum.
Right.
So it's like snowflakes. It's like people. We're all different. We all have different likes, dislikes, and we all process things differently. And we went through all that, and then right before her 3rd birthday, and this is also where it's really hard in the US, because some parents have to wait a really long time to get even an appointment with a child psychologist. And it's very expensive if your insurance doesn't cover it. Or we're lucky we live in the state of California, and they offer so much to parents and autistic kiddos, but there are states that don't offer a lot. And it's something that definitely has to change, because, for instance, we were getting ready to move to Georgia because I was working a lot in Atlanta, and I was like, maybe this is where I could actually raise her. But this is before we got the autism diagnosis. Georgia is one of the worst states for autistic kiddos. I shouldn't say worst states. It's just not as good as California is. New Jersey is also a very good state. Colorado is a very good state. But Maryland is a great state. There's like the top 10, and Georgia is not even on the top 20, I believe. And those were decisions we had to make. So we're like, okay, we have to stay here now. Okay. That's going to be a lot harder, because we could have probably a better life there for her, instead of being out here. And, it's very expensive, as we know, to live here in California and purchase a house and do all the things that you want to do, especially for your child.
What does it look like for the therapies that Viv has if insurance wasn't covering it?
Very expensive. ABA therapy can range upwards of $300 an hour.
Yeah.
$300 an hour. They will say your child needs 40 hours a week.
Right.
Like a full-time job.
Yeah.
And so how does someone afford something like that? You don't.
Yeah. You
don't. And it's really, it's devastating for some families when they get an autism diagnosis. And I know people who live in other states who don't have the help that I'm so fortunate to have, just based on where I live, because I live in, California. And so, and again, when I got her diagnosis, so the way that the diagnosis works is, it was about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, basically a, assessment of Vivian. So she goes in a room with a child psychologist. I'm there as well. And she's given a series of tests, which they're all play-based, but she's trying to connect with her. She's trying to see if she'll use any verbal cues, if she'll do anything socially that's kind of different, or how she plays, how she interacts with her, how she does. There's a whole puzzle, series test that Vivian had to be put through. And it was during COVID that we had it. Again, everything's during COVID now, but I feel like it was just like, and so I could be the only one in the room. And Michael was out in the car, and it was just really intense. Like, it was a very small room that we were in, and the woman who was doing it had just, kind of her bedside manner was, a doctor who was not so caring in regards to how she was interacting with us. And she was just kind of like, by the book, this is what I'm doing, da-da-da. And then she just started saying stuff that like, oh, that's interesting. She does that. And I mean, she's typing so many notes on your kid. And I mean, I've already had the assessment done earlier by all of the therapists.
Right.
So I had all of this knowledge of like all the things Vivian couldn't do. And it's a laundry list of shit, that she's like so delayed in all these areas. And then this child psychologist is now doing this again. So I'm like afraid as a mom.
Yeah.
Because you don't want your kid to you don't want them to suffer. You don't want them to be delayed. You want them to run and play and skip and jump with all the other kids and just, that's it. Like, but, so we get done with this, assessment and the woman looks at me and she was like, well, she's definitely autistic. And I just was like, okay. Like I didn't know how to process. Like it was just I was like, no, there was just no, like, I just felt really just like the Band-Aid was ripped off.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And then she starts handing me all these pamphlets. Like she's like, you should look into this ABA therapist. You should look at this. You should look at this. And I was like, okay. And it was just very all this overwhelming, like just, I'm standing there with pamphlets. It's like if someone were to get a diagnosis for something and you're just given pamphlets, like you have cancer, here's pamphlets.
Right.
It's just, it's like you're getting this news and it's devastating. And it's sometimes, people in the medical profession can be a little bit cold.
Yeah.
And they don't mean to be. It's just because it's their job and they're just, this is what she does all day is she assesses kids and diagnoses them.
Yeah.
And so I get back to the car. I put Vivian in the car and I was driving. So I sit down on the driver's seat and Vivian's in the back seat. Vivian was also over it. She was done with the assessment after like 45 minutes. Because again, she's like 3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, any 3-year-old's going to be like, I'm done with this shit. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
So she was in the back seat and she's like eating a snack and then she's totally happy to be in the car. And Michael looks at me, he's like, how'd it go? And I burst into tears and I like couldn't even get the words out. And I was like, she is. And he was like, I told you. Oh. So, and he was more like, for him, it was like yep, that's right. I kept telling everybody, finally, people are listening to me. And so we had 2 very different reactions. And that set a course for Michael and I on the next year of our life and how we're navigating being autistic parents.
Right.
And now knowing. And for him, it was more of like, and I now feel this too. It's when you do, the light bulb goes on, suddenly you're like, oh, that's why she does that.
Right.
Oh, that's why.
Well, yeah, and you can understand more and start to get more insight as to why things are happening.
Yes. But at the time, at that moment, I was not that way. I was absolutely, devastated. And I was like, I just didn't think that she was. Now I have to learn everything about autism, which is also just a very common trap that you fall into as a newly diagnosed, when you get a new diagnosis is you want to know like what caused it.
Right.
Nothing caused it. That's just how they are. And nothing, there's no cure. It's not a disease.
Right.
It's not something like, oh, my child had autism and doesn't have it anymore. Doesn't work like that. Nothing caused it. It wasn't because of, because I had a natural birth. It wasn't because she doesn't have enough vitamins or she doesn't eat this food. It's like, no, it's just, this is what it's genetic. There's something lying dormant in my genes and Michael's genes that connected. And we have a child who has autism or is autistic. That's the right word for it. But, then the next, so after that, then she had to go and get an assessment by the school district because now she's 3. She can't go into a typical classroom. So she can't go into a regular preschool.
Right.
So again, because it's California, they have a ton of things that they offer. And so the school district here offers a preschool program for kiddos from 3 to 5. And it's a very small classroom. It's about 12 kids. And if you want to, you can put your child in that program. And so then I had to take Vivian, now knowing that she does have this autism diagnosis, she has to go and get another assessment by a group of 3 people, a speech pathologist, there was like an OT therapist, and then someone else in the room. And they all assessed her at the same time. And it was really overwhelming for her. Yeah. And again, they said it was going to be an hour. It was like 2 hours long. And they started giving just all three of these adults were just putting stuff in front of her and making her do. And then Vivian, I love my girl so much. She's a Scorpio.
Yeah, I love it.
She goes, all done.
Oh my God.
Like, clear as a bell. And they all looked at me and they were like, well, she's done. And I was like, yep. And then she went and sat in this spinny chair and just sat there and went back and forth and just stared at them like, don't you make me do anything else.
God.
And I was like, ooh, this girl's fire, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, she's done. And moving forward. And so then after that, it was like a whirlwind, then I put her into her preschool program, and then she has to, again, never having been in a classroom setting, never having been around really other kids, because again, she's a COVID baby where she's COVID kids are the kids that are at that age where developmentally they didn't get the social that they should have had.
Right.
It's really affected our little ones.
Yeah.
I have a niece who's 6, she's 6. And she was like, hated her year off because it was such an important year for her. And when she did go into kindergarten, she was like, yes, because she's such a social butterfly.
Yeah.
She didn't understand, like, why can't I go see my friends? It's like our kids, it's affected adults very horribly, but it's also affected our kids a lot. But for someone like Vivian, it's affected her even more because she's now just like, this is how the world works. I'm alone and I have these 2 people at all times.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works.
Right.
How
did the diagnosis affect you and Michael as a couple?
It's been so challenging. And to be completely honest, it's been really, really hard. We have never fought more. And it's not because we're like, it's so funny. It's like, it's not even that we're mad at each other. We're not mad at anything. We're not mad that she's autistic. We're not mad. It's like, we're just navigating this new world where we just did not know this was going to be our life.
Right.
And we just, and this is something we have had to learn how to, couple her together, but also remember, and I think of you often because I had to, do my self-love cocktail. Yeah. Like it was a really big part of, how I was going to mentally be okay, because anytime you have a kid, you want everything for that kid. Your life becomes everything about that kid. If it's typical or neurodivergent, like you want everything to be perfect for your child, and your relationship can suffer in any parent, child relationship. But then when you get the diagnosis with autism, suddenly it became like, we need to research everything. We need to figure out like, what supplement do we need to get? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? And you become, so all of a sudden, Michael and I were one ship, going forward, and then we became 2. And I would excel in certain areas, and then I would be like, oh, you need to catch up to me. I'm reading so much about this, and you're not doing enough, and you're not doing enough. And then we started to separate, and he started, and then we've had to have changes in our life. Like, we were both actors, and then because I needed to stop working, which I've taken a break, and just be at home with her, he's now had to take a position working a full-time regular job. Right. It's in an industry he absolutely loves, but that's something he didn't think was going to happen. Yeah. So it's mourning the loss, and there's grief that comes along with it, and it's mourning the loss of the life you thought you were going to have. I thought I was going to take my daughter to auditions with me. Right. I mean, she has, like, she did a commercial when she was 4 months old with me. I thought she was a Coogan account. I was like, I have all this crap set up for her. I thought, oh, we're going to do like mommy-daughter auditions. Like, it's going to be fabulous, all this stuff. Nothing is what I thought it was going to be. And for Michael and I, it's like we've had to just really, really have grace with each other, because the way he processes is way different than how I process. Yeah. And the way he deals with his, the grief in the morning is he likes to control. He wants to, because it's out of your control. Right. And I've had I'm a little less controlling, but I've had to learn acceptance. And that's my biggest takeaway from all of this is just acceptance. And these are the cards like I'm working with right now. And I have so much hope for her. And I'm going to do everything I can to, give her the best chance, and that's why I've taken this time off, is just to be 100% present with her. Yeah. Because she's so small right now and they're little sponges. And I want her to, be 10 years old. And I want her to speak. I want her to be able to go to the bathroom on her own. Yeah. I want her to be able to go in the kitchen and make herself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich if she wants it. I want her to be able to do all these things, these life skills that you wouldn't have to think about having a typical child, but those are things I think about. Yeah. Constantly. Right. And safety, because she's an eloper. She runs and she won't look back. She'll just bolt. Yeah. And it's terrifying. She's done it at school. They've lost her. Oh my God. And it's terrifying. I get calls and they're like, Vivian escaped again. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And again, you're putting your child in the care of people who are, trained, but at the same time, your child better than anyone. And I'm like, yes, she escapes. You have to make sure like everything's locked. Everything's this. Yeah. And so it's just a wild ride that we're on. And, Michael and I are at a place right now where we're good. And it wasn't good. Yeah. It wasn't good. And it's not and we would never, it's not because of Vivian. It's just how we've processed the information and how we've both dealt with it. And it's like, how they say when you hurt people the closest to you because they're just...
Yeah, because you can take it out on them and they'll take it.
And they'll take it. Yeah. That's just not fair.
Yeah.
And we've both been, guilty of that because we're saddened by, the reality of sometimes what is happening, or when we see Vivian so frustrated and when she's having a meltdown and we just can't get through. And it's like we both have a different reaction to it, and we have to be able to hold space for each other. Right. I have to let him process it how he wants to process it, not how I do, and be like, it's fine, Michael, just get over it. No, let him feel how he feels. And also Vivian doesn't need that. Right. Because and it's crazy because I think you've had people talk about this on the show, but empaths, I think you are. Yeah. For sure. And when you take on someone else's energy, Vivian is an empath. In her school, and I was telling you this, she's in a classroom of 11 boys and she's the only girl.
And that's just because autism is harder to diagnose in girls?
Yes. It's much, much harder to diagnose in females because they can, girls make eye contact better. Girls can mask it so much better. And that's been known. And there's a lot of women coming out as adults who are coming out saying, yeah, I'm autistic and I masked it my whole life. Wow. And it's wild because they've had to conform to how society wants them to be. And now knowing all the stuff that's coming out, it's like, that's not good. That's not good to make people do that. And so for Viv, she's in this room full of boys for 4.5 hours every day. Yeah. And she comes home and she's just like, oh, she looks like she's been through 10 rounds. And I'm like, I'm sorry, baby girl. But she holds her own, she's like, she's so tough, but she's so girly. Yeah. So absolutely girly. And, but yeah, and she's, she's super artistic. She has her, ways of communicating, or, it's wild because when I tell people my daughter doesn't speak, and it's like when you really think about it, how does she communicate? And people don't really think about how do you communicate with your daughter? I have an entire wall of little pictures of either things that, are just icons, basically, like an emoji icon. Yeah. Of some sort that she recognizes, or an actual photo of Michael, or an actual photo of a dinner plate, her favorite snack, her favorite cartoon character. And then what she does is she goes and points. Right. That's how she asks for things. And she goes over and she points, and we use pictures, which will then translate into basically an iPad, which then she can use when she goes out into public. I'm hoping that we don't have to have that for her life. But if that's the way it is, I'm starting it now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids, they say, don't start them. It's called an AAC pad. They're like, don't start that type of communication because then they're going to rely on it. Well, for me, I want to start that communication because we're not now as frustrated as we were.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I started, like, it's literally a wall in my room. Yeah. And as soon as I started that, you know, I started it around Christmas, her frustration level has gone down and down and down, and she's happier. Because she's like, I'm understood.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted, you know, chickpea puffs instead of veggie straws, and I could tell mommy, you know, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
That even just that tiny little thing, or I want to go to the park and swing.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to the park and run around and have bubbles, you know, type thing.
Right.
But again, because she can't verbalize any of this, it was a guessing game for a really long time.
And frustrating for you too.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine. She still has, you know, she still has moments where she had one the other day and I just did not know what she wanted. And she just started crying. And the cry is almost like an infant cry.
Yeah.
Because she's so trapped inside and she can't get it out. And it breaks me down. And I've sat in my kitchen and cried more times than I'd like to admit because it's so hard. And it's it can feel really lonely, especially when you first get the diagnosis, because you just want to find out everything. Like, what can I do to fix it? Well, you can't fix it, but what you can do is you can alleviate, you know, because there's nothing to fix. I shouldn't even say that. There's nothing to fix. You just have to figure out how to guide your child and how to communicate with them.
Right. What are some of the things that, since getting the diagnosis, that you've experienced with Viv that have kind of brought you the joy in seeing how she's growing up and changing?
Oh my gosh. There's like a million things that I feel like it's just anytime I get to connect with her on something where, for instance, this is just a really kind of funny example. The other day, she loves games. She loves playing like hide and go seek games and stuff like that. And the other day, Michael and I were, you know, we do this thing where we pick her up. One of us picks her up and then the other one runs up and goes, Vivi sandwich. And we kiss her on both. So one kisses her on one cheek and the other kisses her on the other. And he was holding her and she kept going like this and patting her cheeks. And she's never done that before. And she was like looking at him and she was like, and then she like pointed at me and was like, and then suddenly we were like, Vivi sandwich. And those little tiny things are what keeps us going and keeps us lit up, because we're like, oh my God, we now know what she wants. Like in regards to like how that works out. And then, you know, when I hear she's at school and the teachers say, no, Vivi, and they say, no. And they do this like finger thing at her, like they wiggle their finger. I don't do that at home. I don't do no. Like I'm not a school teacher. And the other day I was like, hey, can I change your diaper? And she looked at me and goes, no. And so I'm like, wow, you're taking like things from school and doing them at home. And then also she's so stinking smart. And one of the boys in her class was out for 2 weeks, and then he's back and his nanny came to pick him up 2 days ago. And Vivian did like a double take and she ran right up to her and gave her a hug. And there's so many things about autistic people that they say like they're not emotional. That's a lie. They're extremely emotional.
Yeah.
They're also extremely affectionate.
And intelligent. I mean, there's a lot of studies that are like they're more
savants.
Intelligent.
They can be savants. Yeah. Because they're one of the things that, and this will go into her artwork, but when she was very small, she could sit and color for a really, really long period of time. And it was like scribbles, you know, whatever. But one of her therapists was saying like, well, that's not normal that she can sit that long. And I was like, well, why is it bad? She's so happy.
Yeah.
She loves it. And she was like, kind of made me feel like it was weird that I let her. I don't let her do anything, by the way. She just does things, you know. It's like when people say, I let my kids. It's like, no, kids are just kids. They do stuff on their own. But I was like, why is that bad? Like, so some of the stuff that I was being told, like, oh, that's not, that's kind of, that's not, you shouldn't, I don't know. I was like, no, this is actually a really good thing. And that's when I started giving her paint. And then she started painting. And I started realizing, oh, she's really into this.
Yeah.
And now she paints so much. It's to the point where I don't even offer it to her anymore. It used to be something I was like, do you want to go paint? And then I would like set up her paint station and all of her paints and do all of that stuff. And now she's old enough now where she's like, there's autonomy with her. And that's the other thing too, is as she gets older, she gets more autonomy. And I love that about her because she feels more in command in her space, you know, in the home and at school. And she feels more comfortable wherever she is because that's exactly what you want her to feel, you know, that she has space in this world.
Yeah.
And she's not reliant on someone for every single thing. And, so now when she goes and she'll just go over to her paint closet and she'll pull out this like bin of paints and like look at me and bring it over to me like, come on, mama, let's go. And I'm like, all right, let's do it, girl. And she'll paint like 3 or 4 times a day now. And it's like crazy. But I let her, because in my mind, it was never a bad thing.
Right.
I was like, it's not bad that she wants to sit and do
artistic shit. What?
For like,
that's great.
And one of my other friends whose kiddo was on the spectrum, she was like, I would love if he would sit and color and paint. And I was like, it's just what she's into. If she woke up tomorrow and wasn't into it, fine.
Yeah.
She's not into it. But I'm really enjoying this moment because I get to see into her mind. And sometimes she makes just like a mess. And then other times she paints something that's so abstract and cool and fantastic that I'm just like, am I crazy or does this like kind of look cool?
Are you Picasso?
Are you Picasso? What are you doing? And Michael even says that he's like, because I'll send him every day, I'll text him like her artwork. And sometimes he's like, that is wild.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it matches something that she's been playing with.
Right.
Sometimes it's something that we've seen. It's just really, really fascinating. And like, so I've been really enjoying, you know, just getting to know her more in a way that's not what I expected.
Yeah.
Not how I expected my daughter to be. But at the same time, we shouldn't have expectations on, you know, people or things. And she's changed my life. I mean, being a mother changes your life, but she's changed my life in this way where I used to, and this is so easy for actors to get into, it's so self. You know, we live in this town where it's all about what you're doing and all these things, and she could care less.
Yeah.
She just wants her mommy and her like favorite things, and she just wants time, and like it's made me just reevaluate so many things.
Yeah.
And it's been wild, but also
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And talk to me about Art by Viv.
Art by Viv. So yeah, she did this the story is we went to the Getty, and which we love to go to the Getty. It's just, you know, I love art. I love just museums, and we go to the Getty quite frequently. And we were there one day and we were walking around the garden, and it was absolutely gorgeous that day, and everything was in bloom. Tulips were out. Everything was so beautiful. And Vivian's really observant. She takes everything in. So we go to the Getty, we come home, and she asks to paint. And so I bring out her paints. She picks out the colors. I don't do anything. She literally hands me what colors she wants that day. You know, she has 2 different palettes, one with like 900 colors on it and one with like 6. I prefer the 6 one because it's less mess, but whatever. And then she sits down, and I didn't have any canvases. I just had paint paper. So I put a piece of paint paper down, and then she goes over and she paints this picture, this thing. And then she has this habit, when she's done, she puts her brush down and walks away. And I walk over to it, and I was like, wow, that's kind of cool, Viv. And I make her feel really proud of everything, so I hang everything up. So I put it on the fridge, and I didn't think anything about it. And then I was like, I don't know what I was doing, but I was like looking at the fridge, and I was like, is that a tulip? Did she straight up paint a tulip? And I was like, no way. That's so wild. And I kept looking at it more and more. And then I started noticing her artwork. Like I started then really paying attention to what she was painting, and she would like paint something. And if it looked like something that could be something, I would like really study it, and I would figure out what she was trying to paint. And I realized she was painting a tulip. It definitely was a tulip, because my child is obsessed with flowers. She's obsessed with them. She smells every rose she sees. She sees a rose bush, she'll pull them down and smell them. She's obsessed. And so I started noticing that she was painting things that were in real life.
Yeah.
You know, like I'd take her to the beach quite often, and she'd come home and she would paint, and the whole paint would be blue water.
Right.
And again, it's all abstract. She's
Yeah.
3.5. You know, it's not like it's like you could tell. It's like, but I know what she's trying to convey. She's conveying her emotions through these paints. And it's just really fun to see, because she's painted some really cool stuff. And most recently, I had a birthday, and I had these flowers, you know, from Michael, and it was like yellow, purple, and, you know, or yellow, pink, and purple were the colors or whatever, and some green behind it. And she kept taking the vase and moving it from the table to the window for like days. Just kept doing it, and then taking them down and smelling them and moving them back and forth. And it was just like, you know, this repetitive behavior. And I just let her. I was like, yeah, she just loves the flowers. And then she comes up to me, brings the paints. She points to all the colors she wants. I just squirt them. I don't even think anything about it. And this was like at 7:30 at night. She goes to bed. You know, it's like she's going to go to bed really soon. But I was like, okay, you feel like painting? Please don't get dirty. Like, I just gave you a bath. And she puts it down, walks away, and then we go to bed. And I come out and I look at it. And she has painted this bouquet. It seriously it was the same, exactly the same, you know, arrangement. And I was like, no way. And I look at Michael and I'm like, did she really just paint this? And he's like, I don't know, man. And I was like, but again, we've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
So I started her website. It's called Art by Viv, and on it you can read about her a bit more. And then I have a gallery of all of her artwork. Like you can see it. And again, like I say, if she doesn't want to do this anymore, you know, if she wakes up at 4 and she's like, I'm done painting, Mom. Fine. Okay,
Yeah.
we're done painting. But right now it's just really, really cool to see. And then I'm such a proud mom that I put it on a hat, like her tulip painting, which I called the Lone Tulip. I put it on a hat and I put it on a t-shirt. And I like just randomly posted it on Instagram because I'm that mom. I'm so proud. I'm like, you guys like my t-shirt? Vivian painted this. I love it. I framed it and I have it on a hat. I got like 50 messages.
I love it.
And it's not like I'm not an influencer. I'm a mom. Like 50 messages for me is cool. Like I open it up and I'm like, whoa. And legit, it was like 50 people.
Yeah.
Where can I get an Art by Viv merch? And I was like, what? And I was like, I mean, I guess I could do something with that. I don't know. I kind of just made it for me. And that's what I said. I was like, I kind of just made it for me, but okay. And then my sister called me and was like, I have to have a t-shirt, like immediately.
Yeah.
So I sent my sister a t-shirt, and she lives in Colorado, and she does like lunch duty at her daughter's school. And all the teachers and moms were like, what is that?
Stop.
And Alexis was like, my niece, 3.5. She's autistic. She paints. Oh. And then my niece, who's 6, was like, I want an Art by Viv. And then my niece was like, Mom, I want to start painting. And then my sister, who's like a clean freak, was like, it's really Vivian's thing. Because she knows how messy it is. Because my walls are covered. Like the floor is like annihilated in paint. And so anyway, started Art by Viv, and you know, each sale, 15% of each sale goes to a nonprofit autism organization of my choice.
That's amazing.
Right now, it's helping families in Ukraine who have autistic kiddos that, because I can't imagine the pain that they're going through. Recently, I couldn't find Vivian's favorite cereal bar. Yeah. And she eats 2 of them a day. Yeah. And she only eats certain foods, and I was freaking out. Yeah. I had people from all over the US sending them to me because they could find them for me. I can't imagine being in another country, being taken away from your home with your child who has so many things that they need, and not being able to get them for them, and not being able to help them. So that's what it is right now. And so
that's amazing. So where can people get it?
Art by Viv.
Artbyviv.com. Yeah. I freaking love it.
Yeah.
Ashlynn, I can't thank you enough for coming on and being so open about your journey. If you could tell moms that are listening, or anyone that's listening who has someone autistic in their life, what advice would you give?
If you're a new mom and your child gets an autism diagnosis, the first thing is let yourself feel all the feelings. Mm-hmm. And I think you were one of the first people to text me when I announced it. And you are so good at holding space for people. And I the text message you sent said something like, I don't know what you're going through right now, but I just want to tell you whatever you're feeling, you're allowed to feel. And that meant so much to me, because you don't want to come across like, woe is me, type thing, but you just want to be able to be truthful and honest and share like what's going on in your life and how things have changed. But if you, as a mom, like, know that it's going to be hard. 100%. Motherhood is hard. Yeah. Raising any child is hard. It's going to be more challenging. And remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Mm. I've been trying to potty train my child for over a year. And I'm nowhere close to being, where I want to be. But that's okay. And it's one day at a time. Mm. Less is more. Yeah. You're going to get packets from people that say your child can't do so many things. Throw it out the window. It's bullshit. Yeah. Because your child is perfect and they can do so many things. Never limit them, because we live in a society that tries to limit people and what they can do, and we have to break that. And those are my biggest takeaways, and advocate for your child. Yeah. If you feel like your child is showing signs of autism, get them into stuff early. But again, less is more. They don't need to be in a ton of different therapies. They probably need maybe just to get outside more. Right. That's also a therapy in itself. You know your child better than anybody else. Don't let people bully you or make you feel like you have to do things that maybe you don't feel comfortable with, or you're like, I'm not really aligned with that. Advocate, trust your gut, and just learn that it's not a disease. It's just how they are. Yeah. There's nothing you need to fix. It's beautiful. Embrace it. And also remember to take time for yourself and your spouse. Yeah. You have to do that in even just anything. You have dogs. Yeah. Anything. If you're taking care of any sort of thing in your life, it can come between you and your relationship with yourself. Yep. And how you take care of yourself and how you take care of your partner and how you guys take care of each other. You have to do your self-love cocktail. You have to do all of those things, because if you don't, you're not going to be a good mom. Yeah. You're not. And you're not going to show up for your kid the way that they need to. I'm so much better. If I can take 15 minutes, and I have no shame in doing this, if I need to meditate and I haven't meditated that day, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is going on, babe. Yep. I'm going in the bedroom. I'm taking some mommy time, because I'm going to be such a better mom the rest of the day.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I say that all the time, and I think sometimes people brush it off because I'm not a mom. No. So I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Oh my God. But you are a mom. You have 2 gigantic dogs.
Right. 3. 2 that are big.
3. And so it's like, and you run your own business. Like, you have, this is huge. You have so much going on. And anything in life, anything can come in and overwhelm, and suddenly you stop taking care of yourself, or you're like, oh, I'll just do that later. I'll just, I don't need to work out today. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Actually, maybe you do. Right. Oh, your eating goes out the window, or you're not eating as healthy as you should be, and you're not getting outside and I'm a big believer in light therapy and just getting outside in light. And just anything you need to do for that you find that like lights up your soul and feels good. Remember to keep doing those things. Yeah. Even if it's just like 10, 15 minutes, little snippets that you can find throughout the day, do it. And Michael and I are such big believers in that, because it's also your mental health. Mm-hmm. It affects other people.
Yeah, big fucking time.
So big. And if we're not taking care of our mental health, if I'm not in a good mental state, whew. Yeah. I have a short fuse.
Everyone else is suffering.
Mm-hmm. And then I have a short fuse with a daughter who's frustrated and a daughter who doesn't understand. So if I have a short fuse with her, which trust me, I have, like, I've lost my cool on her more times than I would like to admit, because it's frustrating. Yeah. And but like the other day, I have to drink magnesium every day. I just have to. I have to drink some magnesium. It just calms. So nice. It's like a CBD. Woo! It feels good. And I realized I had gone hiking with my girlfriend earlier in the morning. Viv was at school, and I was like rushing around doing a bunch of stuff. And I picked her up, and I realized I hadn't had my magnesium. And she started screaming about something, and I was like, and I could feel the rise come up of my like, what are you screaming about? And then I was like, check yourself. Hold on. Wait a second. And I was like, mommy needs a little bit of mommy time. So we went home, made sure she was all set up and okay, got some magnesium, drank my magnesium, and like did like a quick 5-minute like reset, came out, was like, hi, I'm great. Let's go the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I had to reset.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to, if I don't do that, it's not going to be good for her.
And that's so important in any situation you're dealing with.
Any situation. Any time in life.
Yeah.
You know, it's so important to do that, because otherwise it's just, we've said it, everyone's going to suffer. And so
can you tell us where people can find you on social media if they want to follow your journey?
If you want to find me, I'm on Instagram, Ashlynn_Yennie.
And artbyviv.com.
And artbyviv.com.
Yay. Thank you for
exciting.
being here. So appreciate it. And I love you.
I love you. Thank you for having me.
I want to thank Ashlynn so much for coming on and being so open and honest about this incredible journey she's been on with her beautiful daughter, Viv. If you guys aren't watching on YouTube, I am holding up one of her hats from the Art by Viv website. I encourage all of you to go check it out and grab one. It's actually really cute and beautiful. But I love that they are giving a portion of the proceeds to families with kids that have been diagnosed with autism that are in need. So please go check out Art by Viv. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed so you never miss an episode. Keep up with us on Instagram at FML Talk Podcast. If you need more FML content, you can get all 5 of the mini bonus episodes and access to the private self-love Facebook group at patreon.com/FML Talk. And as always, have a self-love cocktail on me. Cheers.